Okay, well, let me get this rolling. I think we've got a good chunk of people. There's still a few more coming in, but we are recording this. So if anybody does want a copy of this to share with anyone in your organization or your company, feel free to get that. Audrey, I assume you may send those out to everybody that attends after the fact, so they'll get that automatically.
Absolutely.
So let me introduce our esteemed panel here today. We have Éric Charbonneau. He's the president of Centris. For those that don't know that company, that is a provincial wide. For those that don't know what a province is, it's like a state. So it's a full statewide MLS and association organization that Eric's been running for some time, does a fantastic job. Welcome, Éric. We have Tom Demos. He's the director of broker sales for Constellation1 and does all kinds of interesting things with websites, which we're going to see some ideas of how they use location insights today. Then we have Ishay Grinberg, the CEO of Rental Beast. Some of you may be working with him, or if you're not, you probably will be shortly, because he's doing a great job of helping all MLSs figure out how to take better credit and use rentals as a way to increase engagement within their MLSs. And then we have Audrey Whittington, and she's the VP head of sales for Local Logic. So welcome, everyone. Great group. So I thought I would just kick this off a little bit and just tell you some of the things as WAV Group. For those of you that don't know, we run a consulting firm and do a lot of work with MLSs and technology and brokerages. So this is topics that are near and dear to our heart. And we're in a world that has changed dramatically in the last few months. The MLS has become, not that it wasn't always a super important partner to brokers and agents, but it's become even more important. It's the depth of the technology that's offered, the data services and data collaborations and data integrations that MLSs deliver now are so much more than they used to be. And it's really become a core partnership between many brokerages and MLSs around the country. And especially in this market where brokers, and many of you, if any of you are brokers, you probably can agree with this. If not, if you're talking to them, you're hearing this. This is a weird market, right? Even economists don't know what to do with the heck what this market is. There's this no unemployment, but it's strange, right? And of course, the sales activity has slowed significantly from where we were last year. And the uncertainty from a customer perspective with mortgage interest rates increasing, people that were selling homes, pulling them off the market. I've heard many stories, like literally mid-transaction, people pull them off the market. Right? So there's a lot of things going on. And what that does, in my view, is it provides opportunities for MLSs to become an even more important partner to their customers. And this is a statistic I wanted to share with you guys, because I think this is a big change from where we were a few years ago. WAV Group has a program called the Customer Experience Index, and we field subscriber satisfaction surveys with MLSs across the country. In fact, Centris was one of the participants in the study this year. And we asked the question, how interested are you in your MLS spending more time and energy on their websites to increase traffic and leads, right? And for those of us that have been around probably way too long at these days, we remember the days when it was, don't level the playing field, stay away from websites, that's my territory, et cetera, et cetera. We heard this a lot, right? This data now statistically proves that attitude has turned, right? 3/4 of in those numbers is both agents and brokers want their MLSs to lean in on these online efforts and provide better ways to support customers and providing insights inside of the MLS organization too. We're going to look at that in a minute as well. But it's time, and if you haven't or aren't yet thinking about how to make your MLS website and your MLS efforts more and more rich with different types of data, they're going to help your agents better service their clients, better answer questions, and better, support them in their decision-making process, then you're really kind of behind the times. And you'll see Éric is probably, if not the best, well, he's definitely the best website for real estate in Canada, arguably one of the best in North America. And this is just one of the reasons why. So just wanted to remind us all that this is something, if this is not a core component on your strategic plan, it really does need to be, because brokers are asking for it. One of the reasons they're asking for it, in addition to all the economic issues I mentioned, is that they now recognize if they want to buy leads from third-party websites, which many of them have done, that's not just an advertising program anymore. That's a 25 to 40% of their commission that they're giving up, right? Brokers already have such tight margins, ridiculously tight margins. Agents have more and more pressure on them to do more and more marketing, that they're looking for their MLS to lean in and to become a bigger part of their business generation opportunity and partnership. So with all of that said, this is what we're going to talk about today. Location insights is just one of the core components that can really help you make your website much more powerful. So before we jump in, I thought, Audrey, can you just explain to us what the heck is a location insight?
It's a fair question, right? Yeah. And it's a broad term, but it's actually, it translates to something really, truly very specific. A location insight is not just sort of a data point, it's a story, right? So what we're attempting to do is to tell you the story of a location as it relates to outside the four walls. So you can go into your MLS, into a variety of other data sources and see the square footage, and does it have a fridge or not, etc. But when you walk outside, it's very hard to find meaningful information that tells you the story of what it would be like, whether to buy that property, sell that property, or invest in that property. It doesn't matter, right? How do you de-risk that investment for yourself? Because today where we live where we work, and we work where you live. So location insights for us means anything that could be like, what's the climate outside, right? What's the crime? What's the points of interest? Like, where's the grocery store? Where's the cycling? Where's my electric car charger, right? What's the neighborhood like? Is it quiet? Is there transit? Is the subway nearby? Are people who live here, are they in families, or they're just one or two people? Demographics, and all of these things paint a picture of the property beyond what says, hey, you can get 3,000 square feet. But what does that mean for when I walk outside? And because, again, we are spending more and more time in our homes, it matters now. And one little sort of anecdote I like to give really quick is, I think the difference between a data point and insight is this. If a walk score says the Starbucks is across the street, right? That's an algorithm that says the Starbucks is 400 feet away or 200 feet away, right? And it has a high walk score. Mm-hmm. Now I'm in Washington, D.C. If you're crossing the Beltway to get there, you're not going to even make it to that Starbucks, because you're probably going to get hit by a car. So, so we like to say an insight says, hey, there's a 5-lane highway there. There's a lot of noise. It's kind of traffic. There isn't even a walkover. It's not a lot of trees. So we try and kind of make that a much more comprehensive insight as to what it means to where you live.
Gotcha. So it gives you a picture beyond just the four walls of the property.
It tells that story. And I think that's probably why it's so compelling. I mean, we do, current customers for us, for instance, on a corporate level are like, not only everybody on this call, which is excellent, but also like CoreLogic and Black Knight and Redfin and Remax and some pretty larger players. So they want to tell the story, whether it's on the back end to their agents, to the MLS, so they're on par with the consumer, or to the consumer themselves. Hopefully that helps.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think that does. I think you're right. The difference between data and insight is something that really helps me. It educates me about the real experience that I would have if I lived in this particular neighborhood. So
exactly.
Awesome. Or region. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it to Éric first. Hello, bud. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you, Marilyn.
Good. So first, I want to just give you a chance to talk about something, because as I mentioned, we've done these customer experience insights, and I got to tell you that when we asked customers about the business generation potential of the website, that's again, statewide, provincial-wide website that you have launched, it's extremely successful. But my first question is, why did you guys make this such a priority? Because obviously, I'm making the leap. It's a big priority since it's done so well. But why did it become a big priority for your organization?
Well, for many reasons. Well, you mentioned one of the big reasons. We didn't want our members to be obligated to give a big chunk of their commission. So the real reason is, at the end of the day, we want them to have options. Unfortunately for us, we did make it a big priority. There were some pushback when we started, but that was like 8-9 years ago. But in the last 4 or 5 years, we really pushed it very hard, and we're very proud now they don't actually need to give away their big commission. They use our site. It's 2 and almost 3 times the traffic of the second site in our province or a state, like you mentioned. So the reason number one. Reason number two is that we know that those who get the consumer eyeballs will bring the customer wherever they want. so at the end of the day, it's more for the perennity of the profession that the one that gets the customer eyeball can bring them to maybe realtors, maybe somewhere else. We don't know. So on the longer term, it's very, very important. It was very important that we get the eyeballs of the consumer. And thirdly, we moved there and added a lot of data because we felt that we need to show that brokers were beyond just listings. That listing houses is important for sure, but at the end of the day, and I think we'll touch more on this later, that you live somewhere. It's probably more important than the type of house that you have, where you can find 2 bedrooms and 2 full baths everywhere. At the end of the day, what you talk about is where you live. So this is the reason we've integrated local logic.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Why do you believe local insights or location insights make sense? But also, what kind of feedback are you getting from your agents and your brokers on this? Because clearly we've seen in the survey that we did, they really appreciate it. But what are you hearing? Do they appreciate the fact that this site keeps getting richer and richer and more interesting for people to come visit?
Oh, definitely. Even though there was some pushback from some, actually, and usually it's not the real estate agent that has to give the pushback. It's other companies that have websites, but that we've been away from that for a long time. What they appreciate, first of all, is that we put the realtor in front. We don't put tons of advertisement. It's realtor data, and we understand that the consumer, they want the site. It's more a lifestyle living site at the end of the day. But I would say more than half of our customers or consumers that go on the site, they don't even go to search for houses. They go to see like how inside of houses, and that's why we need to bring attraction when they're transacting, but not also when they're not transacting. So we focus on the site to make sure that they come back to the site because they want to have ideas on how to decorate their houses on certain neighborhoods. Someone that's moves to somewhere, what's that type of neighborhood? So a lot of things is to keep the consumer engaged, actually.
That makes sense. So I was going to ask, why did you prioritize location insights? And actually, you brought up something that's interesting. In Montreal especially, but Quebec in general is an absolutely stunning part of the world. Do you find that the location insights help with people moving around the province, moving around the cities that they're in, as well as people coming in that might have second homes or, a variety of types of customers?
Yeah, in the last few years, we saw the real value of, we started that local insight. Well, we started like everyone else with social demographics and stuff like that, and now we're a lot deeper. And the slide that I guess you're seeing right now is a good example. I wanted to show this slide because in the last 2-3 years, market has turned a little bit over the last few months, but the last few years, there's 2 things that have changed. First, there was no supply at all. So people were searching for houses and say, I want to live there. Well, they need to find alternative neighborhoods. And on top of that, people are started working from home a lot more. So their options were a lot more open, where I could live probably anywhere. But this is what I like. And they didn't know neighborhoods, and usually you want to stay there and stay there. Now that you're more open, it really helped. But on top of that, and that's why I showed the map, is a lot of people are talking about neighborhoods and social demographics, and they'll say, in that neighborhood, that is the type of neighborhood you're living in. Not a neighborhood that's different. It's like this. The reality is that even within neighborhoods, there's different areas. So if you look at the map on the screen, it will tell you someone wants to buy a place where it's car friendly and quiet and very close to downtown. So now you can dive in and say, you know what? I didn't know that closer to downtown, there are car-friendly places that are quiet. And usually we'll describe downtown as vibrant, noisy, blah, blah, blah. So we're always talking about neighborhoods. But the reality is that with local insight, if you have heat maps like we do on our side, you will find things that you didn't even expect that were existing. And that really helps the consumer and the realtor, of course, in helping the finding places like, why you want to live close to downtown but you think it's all noisy? Well, it might not be, you know, and this is really, really helpful. It goes beyond neighborhoods.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you're right, the COVID has changed so many things. And I mean, you probably could have had to work in Montreal. You had a place to live in Montreal. Now you could live in Quebec City and still work in Montreal. It's a completely different culture, completely different set of amenities and things like that. So that's very interesting. I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right. COVID has made the whole world kind of our oyster, right? If you're remote, you can pretty much live anywhere you want. So
Definitely.
yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. Okay. So actually, I'm going to go back here for a sec. So you also have included location insights inside of the MLS system, and is it actually inside of Matrix or where?
Everywhere, actually. We're trying to put it on every tools that the realtor has access to. It's super important because at the end of the day, you want the realtors to have as much information, if not more, as much tool, if possible, more than the consumer. On top of that, they're connected with the consumer to our website. You know, a big difference for us is that they can identify them broker, and then they can work as opposed to other website that they send listings to different brokers. So it's important they have the tools. But more than that, in our strategic plan, you know, traditionally a broker's been involved in transacting, and we think that the industry must transaction will be automated and more and more and more. So the realtors need to move a little bit from transacting to caring. So lifestyle insight for us is a good way to help connect with our vision of the future realtor, which is more about caring and helping in the transaction as opposed to transacting. That will be more automated. So we feel those type of data will help in the transition from a transactional realtor to a caring realtor. So why it was so important to bring it to the realtor first.
I love that. So if someone could, I love that switching from transactional to a care. That is a great way for an MLS to think. And that's why probably your customer experience numbers are so strong, because your members feel like you care as well. But how does, just give us a little taste of it. If an agent wanted to take advantage of location insights, what could they do with it? Could they, if they talk to a customer and use your example of, hey, I'd really like to live close to the city, but I don't want, 5 clubs that are pounding music till 3 a.m. next door. Do they ask those kinds of questions and answer those types of questions, or how do they use it in their, in their sales process?
Well, actually more and more, because we've implemented a long time ago, and all this goes to our communication, our education, where it's part of traditionally, what type of house do you want? And where do you want to live? Right. And don't ask the where do you want to live too much. You can ask, but the reality is, the where shouldn't be a location. The where should be what type of area you want to live, what's important for you. Transportation has always been very important. It's still the case, even though with work away from home, it didn't get away. You might want to go to your old mom's house and you want to go to school. So that's part of the question you should be asking first, as opposed to which city you want to live. That's a question, and it's getting there slowly but surely. It's getting there, and the fact that they can share the criteria with the consumer, they see what the lifestyle criteria of the consumers are, so they have no choice to take that into account from the search, because sometimes you need to push it from the consumer, sometimes it comes from the brokers, but we push it both sides.
That's amazing. Yeah. So let them engage in some of those conversations where they have a lot more in-depth data or to your point, Audrey, insight that they can share. I love that.
Exactly.
That's really neat. Okay. And so let's switch over to Tom for a second. And Tom, you work with broker websites and with one of my absolute favorite websites, valleymls.com, which is run by Huntsville Area Association of Realtors. This is I think the second most popular real estate website in the entire state, and by far the #1 website in the Huntsville area. So it's very well optimized. There's a ton of engagement, and this group just like we just heard from Éric, takes their job of making Value MLS as strong as possible to help their agents as much as possible very seriously as well. So they've done a phenomenal job and I think one of the first US MLSs that's actually taken advantage of local insights. Is that correct, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're one of the first in regards to on the MLS side of things, and everybody's brought up some things that really hit home.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marilyn, you brought up the fact that things have changed. The position has changed for the MLS, right? It's they're not at first when these portals were created. The thought process was, oh no, this is going to be a competition to my brokerage, to my agents, to whomever, and it's
Right.
really not the case anymore, right? It's a partnership. So they're actually look at it as a lead source, and really we focus in on that with the MLS portals that we create. So the systems that are created are really centralized to becoming a local hub, and like Audrey was talking about, telling a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're telling a story, the story is buyer seller comes on. They're looking for a home. They can find obviously all the data, all the information. They get into a particular listing. When they get there, they can then see insights right to that local area. Then they can see market information to that local area. Then they can also run searches with members that are in that local area. So they can really ties together that local feeling of more than just, hey, we have everything, come here, take a look. It has a lot more emotional tie to it, because it provides more value for that member that's the specialist, right? That's there, that knows the area, knows what's going on. So like in our case, we use the local insights directly right on here, like on the listing detail pages.
Okay.
Make it easy for people as they're going and looking at various listings to really be able to delve into it. And MLSs want to provide more resources. Consumers are pretty smart these days. They have access to all this technology. So having that access for the agents or for the members themselves on here helps as well. Again, provides more value, and really it shows that they're the expert and can answer questions and can provide information also for that consumer side of things.
And I think what's brilliant for Valley is that they do it. I know Constellation and Black Knight have had a pretty robust partnership. And so they do it on the consumer facing side and through Paragon on the back side. So that it was very important, not just to speak on behalf of Valley, that it was a synchronous experience, that their agents were never at a default, that an agent could say, my consumer found it, but I don't know where to find it.
Right.
They
I
have
love,
that same.
yeah, that we're hearing that from Éric said the same thing. I agree with you that if anything, you want the agent to have more information than the consumer, right? But minimally at least as much. And different ways, like you were talking about, Éric, integrating it in different systems, different ways for that to become kind of a natural part of the conversation, right? So, and I had a question for you for Valley specifically, and maybe this is a next gen. So the way you described it is it's sort of, I find the property and then I check the demographic or the location insights. Can I go the other way as well? Can I say, I'm looking for a private, a quiet street near a city, and then it pulls up listings that fit within that? Or is it more listing centric at the moment?
Well, we focus on the listing center, but there is the next gen that we're looking at in regards to running those searches by those specific parameters to be able to have that information come about. Again, that's all part of this the growth process, right? Especially Valley, they've been very dynamic in the way that they've been growing this particular site. They provide everything from market trend reports to SEO friendly community pages. They'll be launching. We have this URL for life, which allows you to actually have a listing. Actually, every property has its own URL, which
Awesome.
either has MLS and public records data on it, as well as insights. So what that's going to do is really going to enhance, obviously, the amount of entry pages for potential buyers and sellers that are coming on, as well as really provide a unique experience. And that's what they're looking at.
And that actually helps with indexing on search engines as well, right? It helps.
Yeah, all of these are all SEO friendly entry points. Absolutely. That's really the basis behind it. And we see the greatest impact on the insights are twofold, right? One, to enhance those entry pages as people are coming in. The other is the stickiness, right? People want to stay on and be able to look at things, and it gives them more information than they would get in general. And that's really the goal, is have them stay on the site, make it the local hub, run the searches, find things, find the members that they want to work with, and then most importantly, get it right into the members' hands immediately without having to charge extra or get extra fees or all those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we observed years back when we had Hitwise was that the traffic to MLS websites is very loyal and very rich. Like the time on site, if someone's on these sites, they're very actively engaged. Like they seem to be further down the search process, right, than some other people might. But where they struggle sometimes is to attract new viewers, right? New users. So this type of data could be one of those entry points where they're like, I'm looking for that, again, that's at quiet home near the city. If they type in some natural language search on things like that, this over time, this is going to become more and more of a way to generate new users, I would guess. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, again, you're just providing more and more opportunity to have that access. So, which is outstanding, obviously. And again, like you were saying, I mean, think about it. If originally the thought process, if you're going to find an MLS website, you're pretty much very serious, right? Like you would think I'm a serious buyer or seller. I'm not just randomly looking.
Right.
So it's great though if you can extend that out, extend that reach. And again, it's the same concept as we take with a brokerage or individuals, where you really just want to have as many entry points as possible. Make the consumer experience really one that you're shown as a local specialist. And that's the differentiator here with these MLSs, and specifically Valley has done an excellent job of that.
That's awesome. And these kinds of tools are also available for broker websites. If there's any brokers on the call, they would like to.
They are. Yeah, right? Yeah. We extend that, extend it all the way down. So absolutely, and it's the same. We use the same model for everything.
And are you hearing what our data said, Tom, that brokers are like, please God, help me wherever you can help me, because it's really expensive out there these days, and help my MLS be stronger, because that's a great partner that I love to work with. Yeah,
actually, so MLSs are working more and more together in regards to creating portals together, as well as these individual portals, because they're seeing that there are better opportunities for lead generation directly to their members to keep those dollars, the cost of the sale low, and really provide an opportunity to get more eyeballs to their listings, to their opportunities. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Not to throw you a shout out, but I will, because you mentioned it. The Bright CRMLS website partnership is being fueled by Constellation, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, Nestfully.
I always forget the name. Yeah. So they're potentially going to lean in on some of these kinds of things too. Hopefully, so
we are knee deep in talks on that.
Oh, good. Awesome. Not to give away anything.
No.
Right. Okay, so I think, let's see, what else did I want to ask you about? Well, I just wanted to quickly ask you a broker question. I think there may be some brokers on the call. So, in a time like we were talking about, where brokers are they're constricting their spending and things like that, why do you think they should lean in on something like this right now, Tom, and add something like this to their websites?
Well, the choices are build organically, right? Or to use the, I always use the light switch approach, right? I want I want leads, let me turn it on, let me turn it off. So, you know, I keep paying and then I'm not paying. If you want to build a brand, and that's what really works with both on the brokerage and the MLS side. If you're really trying to build your brand and extend it out, the best thing you can do is just continue to build on these tools, the market tools, the local insight tools, community pages, local, make sure that you have as many calculators and unique items that make it easier for somebody when they to A, find you, and B, when they do find you, to be able to want to stay on and enjoy that experience and go, there's no reason for me to go anywhere else because I have everything I need here. And because of that, I'm going to come back more and more and more.
Yeah, and it feeds into what Éric was talking about, the not transactional, but the care, right? That I'm here as your counselor, as your guide, as your spirit animal, whatever word you want to use.
Yeah, as your resource. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah,
I'd like to steal that one on the light switch, because I was thinking, Tom, it reminds me of a thermostat too. If you turn the thermostat off, it costs you more time and energy than to turn it down a little bit. And SEO dovetails into that perfectly, right? It's less effective than to maintain and try and kind of keep a low level or medium level of sort of being front and center with insights and important, information.
Yeah. Everybody hears SEO and they think that, I have to have content writers and I have to have these other elements. And it's like, well, actually, based on the structure of your website, you can really accentuate your SEO value just with natural tools. And then from there, enhance things as you have a blog or you have articles or have these other things. But that shouldn't be the basis. The basis is, there's so many tools out now from the software providers that allow you to really have everything at your disposal. Right. That now really will make that a natural experience where your site will already be valued highly, and it's just how you're going to grow it from there.
Makes a lot of sense for sure. And one attitude that I always love to reinforce, because I've heard it from the most successful brokers in times like this is when they spend more money on things. They were smart to save in the good times when they had more cash flow and they knew what to do with.
And they get a better deal.
Because they come out the other end with a lot more market share than if you pull back now. Everyone's pulling back. If you lean in while everyone's pulling back, you're going to come out the other end a lot stronger. And same thing with MLSs. MLSs are in most cases pretty capital comfortable, shall I say, right? They've got reserves. This is the time to do those kinds of things and make it happen, because your brokers need you more than ever right now. But again, you could come out the other end. You're going to have a lot more traffic. It's going to be really helpful for everybody. So anyway, thanks, Tom. Okay, let's switch over to Ishay. So Ishay is, remember, CEO of Rental Beast. She's our rental guru. Loves to talk about that. Very passionate about the topic. So welcome, Ishay.
Thank you.
And I'm going to just start at the beginning before we get into location insights. But there are, as you're well aware, because you're driving a lot of it, an expansion of the focus on rentals. Historically, MLS systems and MLSs in general were not the greatest at curating rich and deep and usable rental inventory, right? They just didn't do it as well as they could. So why do you think MLSs should be putting more emphasis on rentals these days?
Let me count the ways. First of all, we spent a lot of time talking about the consumer not having more information than the real estate professional. And I think just in general, rental inventory, rental data is a great example of beyond insights. The vast majority of the rental inventory, if I'm a consumer and I want to find a place to live in the form of a rental, for the most part, that information doesn't reside inside the MLS system. So if I want to empower the members of the MLS to be at least at level par, if not a higher level, in gaining access to where can I place a prospective tenant, you need to have that rental data. Second is, we're coming out of a period here of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years where, as Éric mentioned, there's a real problem with supply on the for sale side. And that is not a problem that is going away anytime soon. I don't have the statistics for Canada. I'm sure Éric has it, but in the US, we're missing 4 million homes And, home builders are disincentivized in many respects to build new ones.
Mhm.
You have a ton of demand. People really want to own a house, but because there is lack of supply, the average cost to buy a home has continued to increase. Now you have a rising interest rate environments, and the net of all of it's become more unaffordable to
Mhm.
get into a house. But people need a place to live, and when they can't afford to buy, or it's harder for them to buy, they rent. And I'm a perfect example of that, by the way. I wanted to buy. We made a decision to buy. We chose the neighborhood. It took me 3 years to buy that house. And I rented throughout that period until I completed that purchase.
So I want to jump back to just location insights overall. We just got an interesting question. In your opinion, I guess I'll start with you, Audrey, since you are the one that defined what a location insight is, but
Sure.
what differentiates a useful / good location insight versus a not useful location insight? Like, I guess the question is really, what are the kinds of data that we're finding that's the most interesting to consumers and to realtors that are using it inside of systems?
Yeah, I'm not sure you can say there's such a thing as an insight that isn't useful. We've actually really expanded our insights, because who's to say that you may not find, I don't drive an electric car, I actually wish I did, but I don't drive an electric car, so I'm not looking for those car chargers, but many of my family members do care.
Right.
I don't have a dog, used to, but so I don't care where the dog parks are, but most other people do.
Right.
There are various things that are important to me that may or may not be important to you. So I'm not sure there's such a thing as not a useful insight. One of the things I do like about what we do, forgive the plug, is that we get to let you decide what's a useful insight to you. I think that the fact that I do think one of the reasons we have been doing well is because it's interactive. You decide what's a useful insight, not me. And I think traditionally the real estate industry has really been transitioning from, here's a plethora of information, like here's a data dump, right? How long is the RPR report? God love them. It adds a lot of information, and I love NAR, but right, it's a lot of information, and it's a lot to go through. I think we are moving to a paradigm where it is a little easier to say, I'd like to pick what's important to me. I don't want to have to suffer. I don't want to have to, to suffer through a lot of other information and decide. So in my opinion, I do think we're only expanding on what we provide, so that we are not being pejorative in that decision making.
And when you say when you say you, do you mean the MLS or website?
Local Logic.
You mean?
Yeah, local logic, because to Ishay's point, what's important to an MLS is different than what's important to a broker, that's different to a consumer, that's different to an investor, that's different to a renter, right? All of those people are focusing on different things. There's overlap, but
I guess can I localize it is my point. So if there's something that makes no sense in Quebec for whatever reason, like whatever the feature doesn't exist, can a local person turn it off or on, or is that the consumer?
Absolutely. One example of a differentiation, is like in Canada, nursery schools are government run. So we are able to show where nursery schools and preschools are. In the US, they're private. Right. There certainly are distinctions. There aren't many. Actually, it's actually one of the only ones where there's a distinction between the two countries and data sets in terms of what's standardized. But there's school ratings for Canada, there's school ratings for the US. It doesn't matter. Gotcha. Go ahead, Ishay.
I just wanted to double down on what Audrey said. And I really think that MLSs, whether they realize it or they don't, they're data companies. They're a treasure trove of data, and just kind of the internet in general. There are so many data points that are accessible to consumers, to brokers, to agents, to property managers, to appraisers. Unless you take that data and you harness it in a way that a simpleton like myself, just trying to do my job, can press a button, right, and get an actionable insight that I can use. It's almost useless. It's great that you have it, but it's useless. And the reason we love Local Logic is exactly that. They distill this down to a button. You can press a button, you can get exactly what you want to know about that particular neighborhood.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're going to look at two different installations, I think, from the way that you guys are using, the Rental Beast is using it. This is a consumer-facing version, right? Or no, this is inside the MLS.
This is into the MLS, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, this is inside the MLS. We had to kind of shrink it to make it fit, and we wanted to highlight the local logic implementation. The reason we add that to the listing details page from an agent's views perspective, and I'll just clear the distinction between sales and rentals in our view. Agents get a lot bolder when they work with renters. What I mean by that is, I'm an agent, I have an office in downtown Montreal. Usually I am comfortable selling homes in, I don't know, 5 or 10 mile radius from that office. But if I'm working rentals, I'll go, 5 or 6 neighborhoods all across. And I might not be as big of an expert. We see it all the time, by the way, especially from the suburbs. You're an agent in the suburb, you know that rentals are higher paid or higher rent in downtown. You'll drive a half an hour, for a few $1,000 commission, but you may not know as much about the seaport area or whatever. So we want to really empower them to become kind of instant local experts, and the local logic implementation on the listing details helps us do that.
Well, one thing too, I don't think you mentioned, Ishay, that I think is worth repeating is rentals are becoming a lot more important to agents that historically focused mainly on residential, right? Because there isn't as much inventory as we talked about. And sometimes there's a quantity game here, right? If you can do multiple rentals, any one commission is not as high as an actual sales commission. This is the way to keep the lights on when there's not enough inventory to sell, or when there's not enough people willing to put their houses on the market at the moment, right?
It is, but I also think that the smarter, more successful agents and brokers understand they're in their relationship business. I always like to give an example. Everybody knows Ryan Serhan from the Serhan team, $1 million listing in New York. And we're not active in the New York City market right now, but we get a lot of renters that want to live in the city. So he's one of a very short list of brokers that we refer people to. Consistently, Ryan would be the first to respond, even if it's on a small time rental deal that looks not super lucrative, right? He's not selling a $50 million. And the reason he does that, I think, is he understands that this person is not going to be renting forever, and he's building a relationship. And I'll say one other thing is, a lot of these people that come into the funnel as quote unquote potential renters are actually active buyers that for some reason are struggling to complete a purchase this second in time.
Right.
But they're super valuable to you far beyond, the potential leasing commission as well.
Yeah, I heard a great story of an agent in Houston who, same thing. Somebody came in with a rental. Everybody ignored him, this woman, except for this one agent. And it was a decent size. I mean, it was kind of an indicator. The house they were looking for was a pretty high-end rental, which kind of would tell you that they may be a high-end buyer at some point, right? But she went through the program, provided great service, ended up selling a $15 million property. And when the consumer bought that home, she reached out to all the agents that wouldn't help her with the rental, and she was like,
I love that. I was really, I love it. I feel like if you go ahead, Ishay. Sorry.
No, I actually think that from an MLS perspective, rentals is a great opportunity to capture market share. I think consistently, if you talk to consumers, they're all frustrated by the portals out there, because you never get a consistent set of results. Nobody's really captured a meaningful share. Sometimes you get a lot of inaccuracies, a lot of outdated properties. MLSs, if they take this seriously, have an opportunity to become the source of truth. Again, Éric is a great example of that. The reason he became a destination is primarily because of differentiated content coupled by a great user experience. And I think that's a great recipe.
So tell me just one more question, and then we'll open it up. Anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them into the chat or the Q&A, and we're happy to throw it to the group for you. Give us the specifics from the consumer facing side. Like, this is the California Association of Realtors website that you fuel. What does Location Insights do specifically in the rental transaction process as opposed to the consumer, residential real estate process?
I think it's very similar to what all the other distinguished members of the panel said. Ultimately, this is I don't know why we chose this, but happens to be a $24,000 rental in downtown Los Angeles. I can tell you right now, $24,000 rental, if I told you it's, I don't know, in the middle of Siberia with access to nothing, and you had no context of where it is, we live in neighborhoods. it's really important to understand what happens outside the four walls of your residence. And especially with rentals, folks are just significantly less picky about their criterions. You buy a house, it is a very specific and very large purchase. For most
Right.
people, it's their largest investment. The reason we even built a consumer portal is because renters search very differently. They want to know, is it convenient for my commute? What are the characteristics of the neighborhoods? They'll consider 7 neighborhoods on their search. They're really not locked in nearly as much as on the sales side. And the local insights are absolutely critical for them to navigate to the right property. And
So-
similar to Centris, we also take this two-sided approach. Data that comes from the consumer side goes back to the real estate professional, and real estate professional goes back to the consumer, and it's constantly synchronizing with each other. So everybody's on the same page.
So hi, Tigo. Tigo Venturi's got a great question. He said, can this be standalone? Not like, in other words, not integrated with the IDX or RB page? Can it just be a, and Tigo, are you specifically asking about rental based, or are you asking about location insights? Maybe you can answer, throw me back what you're asking about. But
I have a feeling I understand the question. I think
go for it.
the bottom line is we are integrated in a number of, website providers like Constellation and many others, and sort of back-end MLS system providers.
Mhm.
But if a broker or an MLS wants to drop it on their page outside of the framework of their provider, it's no problem. And I think that's the question. Can it stand alone? Does it have to be with, if you'll forgive me, a Constellation, as much as I would like it to be? You can use it anyway.
Gotcha. And yeah, Tigo was asking for his own broker website, not for the
Yes,
MLS.
yeah, we work with like Baird and Kai's, and it's, and a lot of them do their own sites in-house, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Awesome. Okay, good. Tigo says we have RB coming soon, so we will have anyway. You're getting rental based in their market. He's in Albuquerque?
Even better.
Yes, yeah, New Mexico. And we do, I think Constellation does the same thing. So part of our installation is if we install at the MLS level, and then the broker wants to have it at their level, the individual agent wants to have it at their level, we make it available at every level of the hierarchy.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions from the audience? Anything else that we can, the panel can answer for you about how this works? Okay, we did get one question. Let me throw this in, I guess, to all three of you. Do you see an actual practical increase in the amount of traffic and or time on site after you've installed these types of tools?
It's difficult to say. I think we because there's so many things that we do on the site that it's definitely some value, and people look at it. I think where we find it successful is that because we track the criteria and they use it. So at the end of the day, it's really the usage. We save the criteria, and we understand that that's what the consumer wants. But to have a specific metric, maybe Local Logic has it, but we don't. It's difficult to say.
But
we just did do a study with a large names remaining nameless. Asked for a lot of engagement, and I'm happy to speak to this offline to anybody who has questions on it. And we are now able to track their engagement. It was massive. It was really interesting to me as to which of the insights they spent the most time on and which tools. So yes, there's a definite increase in both traffic and engagement. Especially, we do have a product that is geared towards SEO that we haven't really talked a lot about. There's obviously a lot of other products than the one we've kind of primarily focused on. But we do have some products that are primarily written, in effect, for SEO.
Oh, that's interesting. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is really neat about this is it's providing legitimate information consumers really want, number one, right? And information that realtors can provide that makes them smarter and more of a value to their customer, number two. And then you have the added value of it, if there are things like that are creating additional SEO value for the site, helping people stay there longer, which all of those things, help with your rankings over time, right? It just seems like kind of a win-win to me, but, I'm kind of a big proponent of MLS websites. Any of you that know me know, so not a surprise. Yeah, so any other questions does anybody else have anything else they want to throw at the audience? If not, I just wanted to give you this. So any of you that are interested in learning more about this, Go to locallogic.co. Audrey is the VP of Sales and Strategic Partnerships, so she can help you with MLS websites, association websites, broker websites, any portals, anybody that has an interest in understanding how this type of information might, make your web presence and or your MLS technologies more valuable. She's your gal. All right. Anything else? I don't see any other questions coming in. So I guess I'll just ask each of three of you to close this out. Just one word of advice not one word, you can use a few words, a few sentences, but what's your word of advice about how to take full advantage of this? If you guys say, I think location insights make sense for me. Maybe I'll start with you, Éric, and we'll just kind of work the round robin that we did earlier. What's your advice about how to get the most out of this?
Well, the point we're at is bring more, the consumer demands is demanding more. A big trend is everything that is to do with environmental, like flood zones, pollution. So I would say in the future, you want to take advantage, go with a trend. And some of the stuff that people don't realize always that they want is sun orientation. So bring more. I would say bring more, because that's what the consumer wants. It's good for realtors at the end of the day. Gotcha. Tom?
Yeah, I was going to go the similar route. Depth, the depth of your content, like the more rich, the more information you can provide that's valuable, that allows them to make a quick decision or be able to get the information they want quickly, I should say. The better it is. And that's really what Local Logic does. It takes all this data and makes it simple for you to get that piece of information that you need to make it like, oh, good, I was looking for that, whatever that is. So that's definitely what I would say is the biggest value, along with really just complementing everything else that you have on the site itself to make it a local hub.
Okay, Ishay, bring us home.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that he has a tried and true product in the market. And I think the reason it's so successful, again, it's differentiated content and a lot of care and attention to the user experience. If you give the user what they want and the content is there, you're going to get a loyal customer and it's going to provide a ton of value to the membership.
Awesome. Audrey, anything you want to add before we close out?
I would only say this is not astronomically priced products. Walk before you run. It's like the last thing you'd expect a head of sales and strategic partnerships to say, but I'm a big believer. Like, we are only growing our relationships right now with Constellation and Rental Bees and Centris. We started in one place. Like, don't be afraid just to get started. Don't presume that you have to do everything. It's okay to just put a piece in, see how it goes. It's affordable. It doesn't break the bank in a hard market. So I'm a big believer in let's get started and see how it works and if it works for you.
Awesome. So Scott says, thanks to each of you, very informative. So thank you, panelists. I think this has been fascinating to hear what you guys are doing to leverage this. And as a always consumer advocate, I'm really appreciative of all of you trying to make the process of buying a home or renting a property, less stressful, more informative, and more valuable. And obviously making sure the realtor becomes part of that process is great. So thanks to all of you. And there was a couple of questions. Yes, this recording will be shared. So if you registered for this today, you will be getting a copy. So feel free to share it. And again, if you need to talk to someone about this, it's audrey@locallogic.co. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Marilyn.
Thank you, everybody.
See you, everybody.
Thank you.